Hi, Craig Smith of the Home Education Foundation here in Palmerston North, New Zealand. Yes, you are the best qualified, you as a parent. Don't worry about stuff. You often ask, oh, but what about testing? Yeah, well, what about testing? Look, you can test your children. You'll check them out and to see if they're mastering the skill to your standard or getting a grip on that body of knowledge you want them to know. You can tell, so you can test them any way you like. Just keep asking them questions, come up with little written quizzes, whatever you can. But you don't need formal exams and stuff. What does that mean? It's just for some records on some script so someone else can judge them, make judgment calls on the child. But that's just numbers on a page. It doesn't tell them anything about the child, about that young person in front of them. You know, if you're really concerned about, will my young person get into this corporation or get into this institution or whatever, well then you groom your child for having an interview, a face-to-face interview. That's what's going to get them through the door and past the decision maker. It's not a bunch of obscure numbers on a piece of paper. So don't worry about testing. That's not a big issue. Competition, well, don't worry about competition. You can have your child compete against himself. How can they answer questions per minute? How many questions per minute? Or maybe sometimes your children among themselves. That's not always the best idea. Or they can compete against you or some other arbitrary standard you set. Any other standards, if you talk about testing or competition, often the standards that are set by somebody else are pretty much arbitrary. They don't really stand for anything in particular. So don't worry about them. Certainly don't stress about that. Just help your child do better than they're doing already, and you'll do just fine. The big question, of course, is always, oh, what about socialization? Oh, listen here. We have discovered ourselves in our own family and talking with hundreds of other homeschoolers and also reading books. It's a non-issue. It's simply a non-issue. You do not want your children to be socialized by the mob out there. You want your child to be raised up to be their own unique individual, to be self-confident and to do what's right and not be swayed by the crowd or moved by labels, or they don't want to be knuckle under to peer pressure. So that's all socialization does. It forces them into a bad mold. So don't worry about that. Socialization, you train them up to do what is right, to think properly, and they'll do just fine.